Hello everybody. Today I would like to show you how to install a development environment to be able to compile OpenRadioss from SourceCode using Windows 11 and a fresh setup laptop. So we are starting from scratch and let's go. First of all, how to achieve this? We can have a look at the website, which is www.openradioss.org, and we go to downloads because this contains all necessary information about how to compile, how to use OpenRadioss, which was done by my colleague Olivier Wienholz in a very beautiful way. So here we are, how to use OpenRadioss, and we go directly to the section how to build OpenRadioss. Here it is described in detail for Linux, for Windows, so we are now getting into the Windows section. So what we need is the compiler environment, so we will follow these steps. First one, Intel oneAPI requires Visual Studio Community. Okay, so let's start with this. Next step will be getting the base toolkit and the HPC toolkit from Intel, installing this, and finally installing Git and fetching the sources from Git. So to get the Visual Studio Community Edition, we're starting the Microsoft Store app. Which is here, and looking for Visual Studio Community 2022, which is great. This is exactly what we are looking for. And clicking on Install. So this will now take a while. We have to confirm. And since this will take a little bit of time, we will make the usage of our beautiful time warp feature. So see you in a few minutes. So now it stops here and asks us to select what we want to install for this Visual Studio Community 2022 edition. The only thing we need is desktop development with C++, which is CMake here, so this is the only checkbox I'm activating. And the rest I'm letting as it is, because we do not need the other things. And okay, let's continue. So this is now coming to the end. And we can go for the next part, which is now dealing with the Intel oneAPI based toolkit. continue without registering. So I have to accept terms of conditions, license agreement stuff. And I go for the recommended default settings during the installation. Microsoft Visual Studio was already detected, which is great. A reboot will be required. Now we got it installed, and as you can see, everything went well with the API-based toolkit from Intel. So I can directly click on Finish, because we want to go for the next package which we have to install, which is the oneAPI HPC Toolkit. So let's go for the next step. Selecting my operating system, distribution, whatever, version, latest and greatest. Continue without signing. Accepting. Again, Microsoft Visual Studio 2022 was detected. I keep the default location. And the next toolkit is going to be installed. See you in a few minutes. So now it's finished. So the second step is done, which is good. We can already test it. If we go for all apps, and now just testing. So it gives me the message that everything is running. This is fine. Okay, next piece. Now we have to go for Git, installation of Git, in order to be able to get the GitHub repository. So let's continue with GitHub or Git installation, download for Windows, latest and greatest. Okay, let's test. Please note. Good. So this is working. So now we are almost done, and let's try to compile an own executable for Windows. Okay, now let's go and start with downloading the source code and building own executable. For this purpose, I'm going to download the OpenRadioss source code, which is here, and this will take a while. Then we have to unzip it and start the compilation. So now the download is done. So let's go to this folder, grab sources, drop it here and unzip it. Starting the command window using the Intel oneAPI tools, which are initialized now. Going into our lovely work folder containing the source. And again, going into starter folder because it contains the first executable which we need to be able to run OpenRadioss, which is the starter, which reads and interprets the input tag and converts it into binary format using some external libraries, which are then readable by the engine, which is the OpenRadioss solver itself. So here we see, for example, this batch file, build Windows, so we can launch it, and it shows us that we have to use with some arguments. So let's go for -arch, and here you type Win64. Let's go. And now the compiler is starting compiling the starter executable, which will take a little while. So now we can see that the starter was successfully compiled. So all these steps were done, and we obtained a fresh baked executable, which is fine. Now let's do the same with the engine, which is the solver itself. Here we switch into the engine subfolder. We'll find this bind windows.batch. So we have similar options, a little bit some more, because here we are able also to compile an MPI version. So if you want, let's go for the standard version first. Yeah, and let's go. So now the compilation went successfully to the end with the engine as well. Let's now test if it is working. So we can see if we have already all the executables in the executables folder. Yes, we have the starter and we have the fresh baked engine here and starter here. This is great. So let's now do the test. Here, this is my OpenRadioss folder. For this one, I just need to set some environment variables in order to be able to run it. So let's do it in this now. Let's go for OpenRadioss and how to install and how to run OpenRadioss, which I showed last time, using this sexy graphic user interface coded by Hauta and Paul Sharp. Now we will do it manually, just to see if everything works well. This is what I'm using here, environment variables, which have to be set under Windows. So let's go now step by step. Set the following environment variables, which means we have to set them all. The first one is the only one which has to be adjusted. The other ones we can just pretty copy and paste. Okay, let's do that. So first one here, and here it requires me to put the current OpenRadioss folder, the main folder, which is used here. So this is this guy. And once this environment variable for OpenRadioss path is set, all the rest can be just copy and paste. So this is what I'm doing. Copy, paste. Path to H3D library, which is also an external library to write out the H3D files, which are sometimes needed but not necessary. Same for the HMCFG file reader. This is only needed to be able to read in all that stuff. So here we are. The runtime libraries for the compiler, we don't need to set this variable because we have it already initialized by using this command window. Anyway, I would like to set a path variable here to the executables folder, which is in my case here. So that folder which contains the executables. So doing right like that. So now give it a try. Starter underscore Win64. Okay, and so this is working. Let's go now to my model. Here's my lovely bumper beam model. So do it like that. Calling the starter minus I for input is the bumper beam 000.rat file. I would like to go with the starter CPUs. Oh, let's go for 8. So, same for the engine, so we already are getting the first restart file, which is the binary format of the input deck. Now we need the engine, which is the solver. Using also 8 cores. Yeah, here we are. 8 processes are started and it's running pretty nice and producing only the animation files as well as the H3D files, because it's requested in the control file, which is the 0001.rat file, which can be adjusted. So I hope you enjoyed this session, and please give me a comment if you would like to have some other extensions or additional information to that, and I would love to see a thumbs up for this video. Thank you very much, and bye bye.